In today's episode of the Five Squad podcast, it's a mindset episode. And it honestly is a mindset that if you are married out there, that you should be adopting. And this is the mindset to create lasting bonds with your partner. Hope you enjoy today. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Five Squad podcast. For those that do not know who I am, my name is Evan Andrews.
I'm Haley Andrews.
And you know what I'm going to say next?
The lovely Haley Andrews.
The lovely Haley Andrews, come on down. Yeah, so for those out there who don't know us, we are your favorite husband and wife duo. We've been doing this podcast now for, by the time this comes out, we'll probably be in month 9 or so. Can you believe that?
Wow, no, I really can't. I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't.
Yeah. And that's, you know why I think it's been that long? Because we have the right mindset about what we're doing.
Totally true, actually. I meant to say totally true.
Totally true.
Tongue twister.
Well, yeah, so today, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's a mindset episode here.
It's one of my favorite words.
Mindset?
I think so.
I think some people get, when
weary?
You say not necessarily weary, but like my coach, whenever we talk about mindset stuff in our things, he calls it like frou-frou, like fluffy. It's like, you know, people are like,
they're so wrapped up in the concept of mindset.
yeah, and they're like, what does that really mean? Like, you know,
Oh,
whatever.
well, we'll dig right into that today.
So, yeah, but today
For all of you fluffy people, get ready.
Today is all about mindset and creating a better marriage.
Yep.
And really making that lasting bond that we vowed to each other that we would have for
and I
forever.
think this goes like, I know we're talking about marriage today, obviously, because we're married. But I want to make sure that we respect all relationships, you know? I think this just really, it's the mindset when you're in a relationship with someone. It could even be the relationship with yourself.
Oh,
You know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
no, 100%.
But it's definitely like just the commitment of mental health in your mind, obviously in your mind, but in whatever relationship you're in.
Oh, yeah,
But
for
obviously
sure.
we'll be talking about marriage today.
So, you know, one thing that we listen to is Brendan Burchard's Growth Day. And Growth Day is our segue into this because we want to have a growth mindset when we talk about our relationships. And one of the things that I think evolves from our growth is not trying to be perfect, right? Like, I think a lot of times when we think we have to like show up for our spouses or our, you know, our other halves, like they expect us, or we think they expect us to be perfect, right? But, you know, I at least I'm trying to work on not being so perfect.
So,
But you tell me all the time that I'm perfect, so it's like...
Well, I think you are. But speaking of coaches, actually my life coach mentions all the time in our calls, imperfect action is action forward, right? So showing up imperfectly is actually better than trying to show up perfectly, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think it's true. Like, you don't want me to come to you like when I'm perfect. That's not how it works. Like, coming to you just real and raw is the best way because we can grow together, but we can't grow if we're trying to be perfect, right? You have to be more vulnerable and willing to be imperfect.
Yeah, I mean, I think perfection is...
A myth?
Yes, it's a myth, but it's not something that like it's not possible.
Right, exactly.
Like,
it's
like
not
the universe.
It's impossible.
The universe doesn't even have like perfection in it, right?
Right.
Like if I mean that's a whole
That's a whole
nother
topic.
episode, so we're not even gonna go into that. But I had a little reference here from a study done by a lady named Carol Dweck, D-W-E-C-K. That's a little weird, but this is from a 2006 study that says it shows how a growth mindset leads to healthier relationships. So,
I mean, I think that's true. If you're not willing to grow in whatever relationship you're in, then like you're dying.
and I think
you know,
I think when you get married to somebody, for example, right? Like I think your first year, maybe first couple of years, first few years, like I think everybody strives or tries for that growth mindset. But at some point, with the statistics of, you know, it's 50-50 chance that you get divorced these days.
I hate that
right?
statistic.
it just falls off somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And like, what do you think is the cause of the growth mindset going out of the window?
I mean, I think people get lazy. I think people stop trying and stop caring. I mean, I think for me, at least, one of the main things about marriage is effort, and I think especially with the way society's going and everybody wants the easy way out. Well, marriage isn't easy. I mean, that's just truth.
Yeah.
But I think for us, we're going into our 4th year this year, married. And I think the last 2 years really is when we've really taken that growth mindset serious. I think the first 2 years of marriage, we're just getting to know each other as a married couple, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the most recent 2 years, we've really taken it seriously in terms of you're growing, I'm growing, and we're growing together,
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad you said that, because I feel like we have to individually grow
absolutely
first before we can actually grow together, because like I can learn something and overcome something and then like segue that into your being.
Right.
Whereas like if you just relied on me to do that for you, that's not,
that
like
would
it's a one-sided kind of thing, and that would just not work
I think
out.
It's not even that you have to learn something individually first. I think it's you always have to be individually growing and also at the same time simultaneously growing together and growing separately. Because if you're not trying to improve your own self while improving your marriage, then it's kind of a flop. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
Like,
and I think
because if we're just trying to grow together, but we're not like taking reflection and moving forward with it, then what's the point? You know,
Right.
like we're just fake growing together.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I think, what hinders people, or inevitably what makes people kind of grow apart, is when they're faced with challenges.
Yep.
And how they look at the challenges.
Like when you're faced with a challenge and you're like, well, this is too much, we just have to give up. You mean that
right,
kind of stuff?
Yeah. So like in a growth mindset, if you look at your challenge as an opportunity rather than a challenge, that's how you can know that like, okay, I'm ready to face this in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially like in my own mental health, journey, when I see a challenge or I'm faced with a challenge, I look at it like, okay, what is God trying to teach me here? And how do I need to grow from this? There's obviously something I need to make a change to. And I think we definitely go into our marriage like that too. Like if we're faced with something, we're like, okay, where can we, make effort here? Yeah. Where can we do something different here? What's,
Yeah.
We're not looking at it like, oh my gosh, this is so terrible, we have to get divorced.
Yeah. And I've said it on this podcast, I've said it amongst ourselves, friends, family, whatever, we're total opposites, right? But that
50-50,
I think makes us kind of a perfect couple. And I had a little quote here that says, a great marriage is not when a perfect couple comes together, but it's when an imperfect couple learns to enjoy their differences.
I really like that quote.
It's good, right?
I didn't know you were going to use that, but I really, really like that quote. I think feel like I've said something very similar on that topic before, because it's true. I mean, if we were the exact same, we wouldn't be able to bring each other out in the areas that were different. I mean, yeah. It just wouldn't be right if we're just like you were saying in the beginning, like if we came to each other both perfectly, then it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
If we're both imperfect, then we can be perfect together. Yeah. We need each other to fit that, obviously not perfect, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And one thing that I think we're still working on to a degree, because I know we have our moments. I definitely have my,
we both
tougher
do.
time with this, but how we prioritize communicating with one another. Like you, obviously.
I communicate too much and you communicate not enough.
Yeah, I get it. And
you mean I get it?
Yeah, no, I'm saying I get why you are coming at me right now like that. But so, and you point this out to me too, where I need to work on, like my active listening. Like I know that that's like one of my weaker points.
I mean, yes and no. I think you're a really great listener when you want to be,
Right.
Sometimes I think just the way life is, we're so busy. I think as we've been married longer, your listening ears do kind of falter at some times, but right. That's just because we're constantly moving and constantly, got to get to this and that. But yeah.
And I think, the second half of this point was, and this is where I think sometimes when we have our tiffs together, and what I hopefully try to get you to realize is just the importance of understanding the other person's perspective.
Yeah, I think we've worked.
Like, I think we both struggle with it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think this just comes with like a serious relationship, marriage, right? Yeah. Like the willingness to put your perspective on the back burner while listening, because it's important to understand where the other person's coming from in order to reach a resolution, or solution to whatever it is y'all are we're tiffing about.
Yeah.
Because it's not about you hearing me necessarily, but us hearing each other from each other's perspective to be able to understand, right? Like an active listening is kind of taking yourself out to hear the other person's side.
No, for sure. And I think being more open in that communication, that prevents us from inevitably what most people, I think, struggle with and why they get a divorce is resenting one another. Like if there's closed off communication, that leads to higher resentment.
Absolutely.
But when we're open with our communication, that leads us to understanding the perspective and where were they coming from. And
I was just thinking, like, you mentioned resentment, and it's true. Like, I mean, just think if we didn't talk for an entire day. Okay, first of all, that would be so weird. But if we didn't talk for an entire day and like I did something in the morning to bother you and you didn't tell me about it, imagine how it would be by the end of the day, by the end of the week, by the whole month. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it is like, it's important to solve issues and to build a better bond, to hear each other out and to really understand the other's perspective. Mm-hmm. And that can only happen if we're talking.
Yeah. No, and I think that kind of, that's a perfect segue.
Look at that.
Into our last discussion point here. But, we have to cultivate gratitude and also appreciation for what the other half of our relationship does for us.
I mean, because if you're not pointing out like, hey, when you did XYZ today, it really made a big deal or a big impact on me. If you don't point those things out, then they're not going to keep doing them, right? Like
exactly, yeah.
And if you do, then they will, which takes away the resentment, takes away the anger, and builds up that positive relationship and the positive interactions and communications. Like,
yeah,
if your partner is doing something that you like, tell them.
Yeah.
Instead of spending all of your time nagging, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, hey, I actually really loved when you said hello to me when I got home from work.
Right.
Or for me, I really love that you make me pancakes every single morning.
And I think that's probably something that I struggle with the most in not like telling you when stuff bothers me.
No, I want you to tell me when you like things.
Well, okay. Well, like, the opposite of that, which I think will lead going back to our open lines of communication and things like that. Like,
but we're talking about gratitude.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying.
So tell me what you're grateful for that I do, not what I don't do or what I'm doing wrong.
I got you. But another point that I had kind of laid out in our notes here, and I know that you love this, is
I love a lot of things.
Small acts of kindness and the small gestures that make you feel like I understand you, and then vice versa.
I mean, think about it. If you're going through your day and you're a busy mom, imagine, hello, me, and you don't ever have the time to be with your partner the way you want to be, to communicate the way you want to be, to actually sit down and have a hot meal. Those little things, like you making me pancakes in the morning, leaving me a note on the mirror, heating up my food for me, or whatever, something tiny that I don't have to do. That just, it's like an unwritten or unspoken act of kindness that just says like, hey, I'm thinking about you, and for busy people, I feel like these things could change marriages if you're doing these little things for each other. I mean, just like when you were out of town, you mentioned like, don't worry, I'll do the laundry like when I come back or whatever, but like I did it for you. And if y'all have listened to any of our podcasts before, he does all the laundry, but that was my token to you that I hear you, I see you, and I wanted to help you.
Well, you also needed clothes for the week.
I didn't do it for me. I have a lot of clothes.
That's true. Yeah.
See? Quit doing that. You're picking out the negatives. We're talking about being positive and grateful. Hello.
No, I am grateful that you did that for me while
But those little things are what make our relationship and our marriage, I think, like different than the average. You know, we listen, we are grateful for each other, and we do little things for each other.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us
I did not practice that.
to an end of an episode. If you got this far in the episode, we really appreciate that.
Yeah, we do.
You know, if you can help us out in any way and like this video, comment on this video, share it with somebody who might be struggling with their partner.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe,
Or share it with
maybe
your
that's
partner.
you. And yes, you need to share it with your partner. And again, we're not gurus. We're just people. We're just normal freaking people.
Yep.
Living normal freaking lives.
Just living the dream, sharing it with you.
But y'all's feedback is what keeps us on our toes and allows us to bring you guys the content that you want to see from us. Even though some of you out there don't like what we talk about, that's okay.
That's okay. We're going to keep talking.
That's okay. We're going to keep talking about it. But we just want to leave you the same way that we leave you every episode. And just remember that every day is a new chance to get it right.
Keep pushing forward and stay inspired.
We'll see you next time.